Hey everyone, it's Fiona and welcome back to my channel, Krishni Krishna Eva channel. The sun is shining so bright, it's like 22 degrees. I am going to do this and then go outside and read, and I hope there's a little bit of sun left in the garden when I'm done, so I can just lay out there, and I'm so excited about it. But anyway, to be honest, that's how a lot of my reading happened this month in April, which is why I got through so many books. Actually, a really like successful in quantity, I guess, reading month for me, which is surprising because I got off to a really slow start. I didn't finish a book until the 11th of April, but then I finished 2 books that day and one on the 12th. So by that point I was flying. But let's begin with the first book I finished this month, which was 11 Other Words by Christina Lauren. This was actually my March poll winner, but I started it right at the very end of March and then finished it kind of a week or so into April, and I really liked this one. This is the second Christine Lauren. Why is it that? This is the second Christine Lauren book I've read. I read The True Love Experiment, I want to say in the summer, and I absolutely adored that book. I was besotted with it. I really loved it. So I had a little look through some of their other titles and what they were about and the tropes, and this is the one that I thought might appeal to me the most, being a second chance romance. I haven't read a second chance romance before, but a lot of the other ones were like enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers, which is not really my thing, so I thought I would try this one, and I did really like it. I definitely didn't like it as much as The True Love Experiment, but I did really enjoy it. So in this book we're following Macy and Elliot, right? Very early on in the book. I don't even know if this happens in the book or if it happened just before the book started, but Macy's mum died, and Macy's 12, 13 at the time. Oh, hell, is she? Well, anyway, she's very young when her mum dies, but the book starts when she's about 12, 13, and her dad buys this like weekend house in the country for them to go and spend their weekends and summer holidays, all of that kind of stuff. And while she's there, she meets Elliot. They live next door to each other when they're at that house, and they become very fast friends, best friends almost straight away. They just get each other. They have such a wonderful connection, and then that blossoms into a romance and first love, and it's a really lovely love story. But their kind of romance and their rest of their everyday lives is very separate because of the fact she's only there at weekends. But something happens when they're 18 and all of that comes to a very abrupt ending. So they suddenly have absolutely nothing left to do with each other, and we don't know what that is at the beginning of the book, but we know that something happened. Now every single chapter alternates between a now and then timeline, so we're slowly finding out what happened. They're like drip feeding the information, and that was kind of the only thing that I didn't super love about this, was that it started to feel like a bit of a drag. What's the way I worded it earlier? I can't remember, but it felt like they were holding on to that information just a little bit too long. We could have found out a little bit sooner, because it started to feel like almost a bit like I know and you don't. I don't know if that's exactly how I mean it, but they just got to a point towards the end of the book where I was like, why have you still not told us what happened? I feel like you're wasting my time now and taking the mick a little bit. But I did really like it, and I would definitely read a second chance romance again, as long as the reasoning seems valid. So like for these guys, on the surface it did feel a little bit miscommunication-y, but I do think that miscommunication was valid because they had so many other traumatic things going on in their lives that it was just like the icing on the cake, and it was just, I don't know, they just couldn't anymore. So that's kind of the past timeline. And then in the modern day timeline, they haven't seen each other for 11 years. Macy is engaged to another man, and then Macy and Elliot bump into each other unexpectedly, and she does not know what to think. I think Elliot is pretty clear that he knows what he wants and it's her, but she is very conflicted about what she wants because it hurt so much the first time. She doesn't think she can ever go through with it again. She's obviously in a relationship with another man, and she doesn't know what to do. But so we kind of watch that all unfold and see what happens, and liked it. I did like this, and I gave it 4 stars. And then later that day, I finished Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Y. Davis. This was also when I started in March, but it was for my March prompt jar pick, and I can't remember what the prompt was now. This is a non-fiction book about racism, and it was very interesting. It was a pretty good read. I was apprehensive about it at the very beginning because the very first, the introduction is written by Frank Barat, who was the interviewer and editor of On Palestine by Noam Chomsky and Ilan Pappé, which was a book I found really hard to understand and to read my way through. So when I first saw that on like page 1 of this, I was like, oh no, am I gonna find this really difficult to read? But actually it wasn't. It was much more accessible for me, whether that's because I've now read more things of this kind of political non-fictional nature, maybe that's why. Maybe the text wasn't actually that different, but I don't think so. I think this was just easier to digest than that other book. Both very, very, very important reads, and there was a little bit of cross-section between the two, but I would definitely recommend this book if you want to know more about the topic, and I mean, you should want to know more about the topic. It's really important. She's obviously an incredible woman from what I've read about her, and I can't remember what rating I gave this. I honestly don't think it was that high, but maybe about a 3-star, which is still alright. It might have been a 2.75. I can't remember. I couldn't have read this cover to cover. I'm glad I read it alongside other things, but I did. I'm glad I read it. The next book I read was Tender Earth by Zita Brahmachari. I had to read this for uni, and I did not like it. At the start I wanted to DNF it, but obviously I couldn't. I had to read the whole thing. It was just so, like, this is a YA book, which fine. I actually tend to enjoy YA, but this is like, our main character is 11, and the writing was just so, like, there were so many exclamation marks that it just felt so unrealistic. Like, everything they said felt fake and insincere because there were so many exclamation marks, but it just didn't feel natural. I didn't like it. I can't explain why, but I just didn't. And it was like let's make them all internet obsessed and social media obsessed. But this book was written in 2017, and her brother and sister, although the main character Layla is 11, her brother and sister are kind of 17, 18, just moving out of home for the first time. And I was 17 in 2017, which is when this book was written. 17-year-olds were not obsessed with Facebook then. You've got the wrong app. And that I found really annoying, because if you're going to make it so, like, you want to make it so relevant, then at least get the right social media. Do you know what I mean? Like, Instagram, sure. Snapchat, definitely. Facebook, it felt like an older person trying to write a younger person, which is what it was, but it felt like that. But this book is about Layla, who is 11, and she's finding out a lot of things about herself and her values and beliefs and the world. And basically she discovers her deceased nana's protest book. So her nana was really big into protesting human rights, and Layla's never really thought of anything political before, and then now she's discovering it for the first time, and it's really kind of struck a chord with her, and she wants to do her bit to change the world and make the change, be the change she wants to see. And so we watch her as she kind of goes on this journey of self-discovery, and then taking action when she feels it's appropriate. And it was really interesting. Well, no, why do I say that? It wasn't. I didn't like it. But it did get me really emotional at the end. I can't remember why, but I do remember feeling really emotional at the very end. But for the whole, on the whole, for the majority of this book, I did not like it. I obviously wasn't the target audience, so that's not the author's fault in any way. She hasn't done anything wrong. But that doesn't mean I still don't like it. Do you know what I mean? I gave this like two stars, I think. I can't remember, I forgot to check my star ratings before I started recording, so I'm sure it was about 2. And then I read Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. Loved this book. Loved this book. I am currently editing my latest episode of the Library Diaries where I read this book, so my more in-depth thoughts are there. But this is just such a great taster, I think, for Carissa Broadbent's writing. It's only, I think, 154 pages. It's definitely less than 200 pages, where her other books, at least the other ones in this series that I know of, the Crowns of Nyaxia series, are much, much, much longer. So if you're not sure about going into a huge book like that, but you want to try out a writing, maybe go for this, because this is technically book 1.5 in that series. The first one being The Serpent on the Wings of Night, which I read recently and really, really loved, which is what led me to pick this one up, which is actually an optional novella, so you don't have to read it. It wasn't any of the same characters from the first full book, but it was clearly Carissa Broadbent's writing. Like, it just felt the same, and it was really good. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I think I gave this 4 stars. The only kind of small critique I had was that the spice was a little bit too spicy for me. But I think I mentioned this in a different video, maybe the one I'm making right now. That is what a lot of romantasy readers want. So I can't complain about that. Like, she's given the people what they want. It's nothing crazy explicit, it's just a bit too much for my personal preference. But that is reflective of the first full book in the series. Like, there was only one scene, but it was very prolonged. And it was just more than what I personally wanted to read. But this is about, what's her name, Lilith? I believe her name's Lilith, and she's a human living in a vampire's world. She's trying to create a cure for a curse and an illness that was put upon her people, like her village or town, by a god years and years ago. And she's trying to cure that. So we're watching her on that journey, and it was really great, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next book in the series. Oh, a bookmark. My prompt for April was a title with more than 5 words, and this one has 7. I heard the owl call my name. I heard the owl call my name. Yeah, this one has 7. This is by Margaret Craven. This was written in the 50s or 60s. First published, 1967. This is a book that I'd never heard of, but we had got our auntie she's a big reader as well, so we got her a book token for Christmas. And then at the end of January, I got this package in the post which said, "Thank you so much for the book token. This is the book I got with it, and I really liked it. Now you read it, and then when you're done with it, pass it on to someone else," which is really lovely of her to do that. Unfortunately, I didn't love this book. It's about a priest who, unbeknownst to him, has only 3 years left to live. So his bishop sends him to live with a native tribe in Canada? Like, I think kind of in the middle of nowhere. Oh wait, the Indian village of Kincombe in British Columbia. So yeah, so he kind of immerses himself into the native Indian life and the lifestyles of their tribe, and really gets himself involved in that. And it's kind of the coming together of 2 different communities and seeing how that works out for them. And it kind of shows you that you get out what you put in. Like, he put a lot of effort into building up relationships with the people and building their trust, and he really benefited from that, because then they enjoyed his company, they wanted to be around him, and they helped him when he needed help, just as he had helped them when they needed help. So I liked the message, but I just didn't love the book personally. I think I gave this 2.75 stars. Next, however, I had a 5-star book. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I loved this book. This was my April poll winner, and I wasn't sure about it when it won the poll because I was worried I wasn't going to have like enough mental energy to put into this book. Oh my gosh, that's loud. Someone was mowing or strimming or something and it was really loud, so I'm just restarting my thoughts on the most recent book I was talking about, which was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. What a gorgeous, gorgeous, wonderful story. What a fantastic storyteller. It's an absolute masterpiece. And oh, it's just wonderful. It was just so good. The story, the premise, what a fantastic idea. But the storytelling is actually all put together so well. It's so well crafted. It's fantastic. So this is about Addie LaRue, who was born in 1691, and then in 1714, when she's 23, she is about to marry a man who she doesn't want to marry. She feels very forced into it, and she actually doesn't want to marry anyone at all. And now a dog's barking. Grrr! I bought a microphone, but I'm too embarrassed to use it. So that's good for me, isn't it? So she's due to marry this man and she just doesn't want to. And in a fit of desperation, she goes out into the woods and she just prays. And she's always been warned by her friend, never pray to the gods who answer after dark. But she's so desperate that she loses sight of what time it is and what the light looks like. And she accidentally prays to a god who answers after dark to give her more time. And this god is like, yep, I'll give you all the time in the world. I'll give you so much freedom on one condition, that as soon as you're finished with your soul, you let me have it. And she's like, yeah, sure, whatever you want. I just want to be free. She doesn't realise that then he's going to do whatever he can to make her not want her soul. So he makes it so that nobody will ever remember her. So as soon as she meets someone, when she meets someone, as soon as the door closes between them or they turn around or whatever happens, they forget instantly who she is. And not even they just forget who she is, but they forget ever even meeting her. So it's not even like, oh, I was talking to a woman in the park yesterday, but I can't remember what about. No, they have no idea they were in the park talking to her yesterday. So it's a horrible life for her, but it means that she's basically immortal. So she's been alive at the modern day for 300 years, and she's just waiting. Why do I just... I find that I just continue a sentence, but it's not actually true. Like, she's been alive for 300 years and she's just waiting. She's not waiting for anything. That's just what flowed out of my mouth. But anyway, she's been alive for 300 years, and then all of a sudden she meets someone who, for the first time ever since this curse started, remembers her, and she can't believe it. She's wondering, is this a glitch? Is this, like, who is this man? Why is he remembered me? Is it because of him? Is it because of me? Is it because of where we were? Is he going to remember me again and again and again? He does. And it's just so good. It's absolutely captivating. And you know, sometimes you read a book and you're like, cool, good for you, you got your happy ending, whatever, or you didn't, whatever. And then other times you read a book and you're just so rooting for the character and you just want the best for them. That was this book for me. I was so rooting for Addie. I just wanted her to be happy. I just wanted the best for her, and I was just so into the story. I was so immersed in it, and it was just so good. So the timelines flipped a lot. There's a lot of moving backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, and sometimes I found it a little bit not necessarily confusing, but I had to go back and check what timeline we were in, especially when there was like say 2017 timeline and a, I don't know, 1860 timeline, for example. And so she's in a certain place having a certain routine, and then all of a sudden it goes back to that timeline, except it was 1859, and then it's like, I thought I was still in the same timeline as before, but then I had to check, and actually it was a year before. But I would say when I got to about halfway through the book, I remembered to check really carefully at the start of each section where and when it was, so that wasn't really an issue. The only thing that I started to get frustrated with this book is that they use one of the main character's eyes as kind of like, as you can look at this character and look into his eyes and see exactly how he's feeling and what he's thinking, which was a really good feature of the book, but that started to get really repetitive. And I remember for the majority of the book, but definitely like halfway through, I was thinking about other books that I've complained about being competitive. For example, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. She kept talking about Kai's dimples, and I was just like, shut up, we get it, he's got dimples and green eyes. And also The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston, I found the writing and like the metaphors a little bit repetitive. But in this book, I remember thinking, it's repetitive too, but I don't mind, because for me it just works in this story. And that was true for the vast majority of the book, but I would say kind of 80 pages from the end, which this book is I think 541 if memory serves. And kind of 80 pages from the end, I was like, I don't know how much longer and how many more times I can hear about that man's eyes. I really don't. And that started to grate on me. But other than that, and like the very end of it was really good for me again. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. But I still gave this 5 stars because I absolutely loved it. And I would highly, highly, thoroughly recommend this book to anyone. I just thought it was wonderful. That's all there is to say. Absolute change of direction for the final book of the month. Oh wait, I forgot to talk about my audiobook. I'll do that quickly now. So I finally finished Love and Other Words, Love As Always, Mum by Mae West, narrated by Julia Barry. This is a memoir, autobiography? No, I think it's a memoir by Mae West, who's the daughter of the notorious British serial killers Fred and Rose West from the 1994 they first got found out and convicted, I think. And so Mae West is one of their children who grew up in that house where so many young women were murdered and other things happened to them before and possibly after they were murdered, and it was extremely brutal and horrible. But it was so interesting to read about that from Mae's perspective. It was horrible. We started this book, by the way, at Christmas, so it's been 4 months in the making for me to finally finish it. It is a long audiobook. It was like 16 hours or something, which it definitely, in my opinion, didn't need to be that long. But it was so interesting, but it was so awful. The things that she went through and her siblings, it's abhorrent. It was disgusting, and it was like we were in the car reading it and we'd just both go, oh my god. It's indescribable, the things that she went through. But she's spoken about it in such a good way, and the narration was absolutely fantastic. Julia Barry did such a great job of portraying these characters. She had the Gloucester accent, but she had clear voices for each of the different, I say characters, it's non-fiction, so they're obviously not characters, but the different voices for Mae, Rose, Fred, and her siblings. It was just remarkable the way she narrated it. My only thing with this, obviously, it's very horrible to read, so you have to be in the right frame of mind to read it if you ever want to, which I wouldn't doubt anyone for not wanting to read it, but for me it was really interesting, bit of true crime. But yeah, the only thing for me was the length. It just, in my opinion, didn't need to be that long, but I did find it a good listen. Is good the right word? We'll go with it. But anyway, the last physical book I read this month, and the last book was another book that I read for uni, and it's a poetry book. Well, kind of. It's like a novel told in prose. So I thought it was going to be really similar to The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, which I love. But it just wasn't that at all. So this is called The Boy Lost in the Maze by Joseph Collo, and I did not like it at all. I just didn't. It didn't flow for me. It was a dual timeline and dual timeline. One of them is like Greek mythology, which is not my thing, and the other one is. So it says, this story is about two boys separated by centuries, parted by myth, divided by reality. Two boys hoping to be men, two boys severed from their fathers, two boys searching for a maze of manhood. So basically we've got Theo in the modern day who's never really known his dad, and he's looking for his dad. He wants to meet him. And then in English, he's studying this Greek mythology and Greek legend about, I can't remember his name, Theseus, who also was searching for his dad back in the day. And so he's drawing comparisons between himself and Theseus. Kind of a nice idea. I just personally didn't like the way it was executed, and that's definitely a matter of taste, not the book itself, but I just didn't like it. I will say it made for some good discussion in my uni essay, because there's bits where it's like, should Theo attack the woman, fight the woman, or run away? And then it says, to fight the woman, go to page 156, to run away, go to 157. So there's a bit of choice in there, and I did like that, but I liked it from the point of view of my studies. But for actually reading it, I actually didn't like this, because I just felt like I was having to put work into it. And also, like, there was always a right and a wrong answer out of the two options. So for one of them, it would go, say for the fight the woman one, it'd be like, let's fight and blah 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 blah, but oh no, she fights back and she's stronger than you and blah blah blah. And then it would always go dead end, turn back to page whatever. And then for the other option, it would let you move on. So it was still like, it's like they're pretending to give you control over the book, but there's still a right answer. So I don't know, I just didn't like this, and I actually gave this 1 star. So yeah, but there you have it. Those are all of the books that I read in April. So like I said, pretty good reading month in terms of content and quantity. Like I've made some good, well, I don't know that I made that much good progress on my physical TBR, because a couple of them were library books or books that I started in May. There was only actually 2 books that I moved off my physical TBR this month, which isn't fantastic, but it is what it is. And I'd still say it's a pretty good reading month, and I'm happy overall. What a ramble. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.